Welcome everybody to today's show. Jared, my man, how are you doing today?
I'm great. You got to see the shirt I'm wearing. It's Brangelina. Uh I don't even know. Jeez, how can we do this? Brad and Angelina together. Brangelina.
But they're
When you
together
open
only.
the zipper, now they're broken up.
Jeez, man, why'd you have to do that for?
I know we could
Bring
bring
them
them back
together. Bring them
together.
together.
We'll keep it positive today. How are you?
Doing good, man. I'm very excited about this. We're gonna be breaking down community strategies, and you are the man for it. So I think this is going to be epic. What do you think?
It's the only way to be.
Is the only way to be. So, folks, do let us know. By the way, where we're calling in from. I'm tuning in from Canada, from Ottawa. Jared, you're in NYC, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New York. There you go, my man. Let's keep the chat live. I know we have lots of North Americans. We have a lot of European cities being represented. We also have Australia. Good morning, or like midnight, whatever it is in Australia right now. I think it's like 1 a.m. Where some of the folks are joining from. So we are worldwide, folks. And again, this is going to be epic. This seems to be the word of this show. Perfect. So this is our fourth show this season, and because we run them monthly, we have enough time to get the best and the most relevant guests, and that's our promise to you guys. You can check definitely more at leaddelta.com/webinars. But I'm so excited to be talking to Jared today for a multitude of reasons. Okay, he's such a nice and humble guy. He's super resourceful and always happy to help. And these last couple of weeks has been a true joy working with him. We talked for weeks on social about why Jared is at the forefront of community-led growth. And there's another reason why you guys should stick until the end. And actually, I ensure that you follow Jared all over the place because he's about to do it again. He's about to start a community again, and he's about to help many other founders like myself to start and shape communities around their businesses. So, Jared, why don't you tell us a few words about yourself?
Oh man. I'm Jared. And thank you so much for that amazing intro, my friend. Co-founder of Rev Genius. Rev Genius is a community for those that don't know. Rev Genius is a community of 40,000 plus go-to-market professionals. So that's sales, marketing, rev ops, and customer success. Created the community. We have a podcast. I'm an advisor in many companies in the space. The community saved me. This is from a social post recently. Just my background. I was in sales for 15 years, various roles, various positions, both in technology and out of technology, or pre-technology, but pre-getting into technology. And I was just pretty disenfranchised. When I went into tech, it was an early stage company, pre-product market fit, pre-product working fit. And I decided to start a fashion magazine on the side, which was my first foray into community, really. It was a digital publication, but the community of the designers, the people that followed them was massive. And, I still had my day job throughout, and I was really going nowhere in my 30s. In my 20s, I was like the best seller in the world, literally, for FedEx. I was the number one salesperson, and then figuring out in technology, I was going around in circles and watching like all my friends like do cool shit and do bigger stuff. And I'm like, damn, I just didn't really like sink in with this sales thing. And I found myself out of a job, and I created a community to try to get a job on LinkedIn in the DMs. And one thing led to another, and the community grew so fast that I couldn't get a job. I had two recruiters tell me not to get a job and that I should keep doing it, except I wasn't making any money and I didn't know how I could survive. So I placed a bet on going all in anyway, because the people that were supposed to help me get a job weren't helping me, and learned about community along the way. And 40,000 members later, we're here. B2B SaaS lover. Yeah. What could I say? I get it.
My man. Well,
That's who I am. Thank you for listening.
Dude, I really appreciate the story. You know, like I actually hate when somebody's like, "Oh, tell me your story," right? You know, do I do a short version? Do I do a long version? You know, you're so much more than just one thing, right? And so the fact that you know managed to wrap up this experience in a nice little story, I really enjoyed it. Especially like the fact you know that you're so vulnerable and honest about your 30s. I think you know a lot of guys and you know ladies, we need to hear this, right? All right, so
Was that succinct or was it too long?
no, it was perfect. It was perfect.
Okay.
It was perfect. All right. So who am I? You know, CEO founder of LeadDelta. I'm your host here, so I'm not going to talk much about myself. I always like to put the guest at the forefront. You know, I like to say I built winning teams, meaning I really focus on people. By myself, I can only get so far, and I usually failed. But when I surround myself with amazing people, and you know, when I get a chance to build teams around the joint vision, is usually when we go far. Much like Jared, B2B SaaS lover, you know, we're in this game for you know a couple of years, let alone to say a decade. And you know, obviously, this is going to be geared towards building communities. Well, communities in general, but also a bit more about B2B SaaS. So perfect. Again, welcome, guys, and thank you so much for joining us today. We will be covering a lot many great topics. You know, we're going to be talking about the why, how, and the what, or the golden circles around communities, and you know why should you even care. We're going to be talking about how to turn your business into a movement. You know, when you bring a product and a community together, this is what's bound to happen if you execute correctly. And then we're going to have Jared talking about a whole bunch of strategies and tactics, real world strategies and tactics that you can actually apply into your businesses. Also, do not forget to stay until the end. We do have some really exciting announcements and some rewards that we want to give away. So we really like to put the guests at the forefront, as I already said. So I'm going to stop the share so we can see Jared in full picture, and we can focus on Jared and his wisdom about communities. So let's set the stage. So Jared, tell me one simple question, okay? Just one simple question to begin with. What changes did you observe in the B2B market landscape that made you want to put the community at the forefront of the go-to-market strategy?
Just a simple question.
Yeah, simple question, just a tiny simple question, you know?
So there's a lot of dynamics going on, right? One, GTM is broken. It's not working the same as it once was. Outbound's very difficult. I'm a big outbound fan. I think it still works. I think it's important, but it's significantly harder. No one will deny that. And the makeup of GTM teams is evolving, and efficient growth is happening in all of this. So you have a new space, or I'm sorry, an evolving space where there are no answers anymore. What used to work doesn't necessarily work, and people need to learn from other people. And also, what doesn't work faster now than ever, right? Like tactics used to be good for 6 months or maybe a year, or maybe 2 years. Now you find a tactic, it's washed out by next quarter. So at the latest, sometimes it can be washed out by next week.
Basically.
So having a group of people that you could learn from and figure it out with, especially in this evolving space, is essential. Like RevOps 3 years ago wasn't really a thing. RevOps today is big. How did it go from not a thing to big? Is it just like one person screaming and shouting? There's a few, but like it's a community of people that have helped to bring that out. So that's the one side of things. Two, from a human standpoint, people are becoming disenfranchised. People are getting laid off left and right, and you know, they're not trusting companies as much as they once did. Certainly not as much as they did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You evolve that. The way people buy, they're saying the way people buy has changed. People always bought like one-to-one and personally, but like you were able to get away with a lot more, like in mass. You can't get away with that anymore. So the combination of like all of these three these three main things, like GTM evolving and you needing to learn from people instead of a book, because by the time the book is written and read, you're on to the next strategy or tactic or whatever. Like it's happening so fast. So you can't do that unless you learn from one another. Two, the disenfranchised, like people leaving companies like faster and needing to have a community of people to find new jobs. And just because they trust a community more than sometimes they trust their company, that dynamic. And then three, the way people buy, being important. So like from a company standpoint, you need to realize the market and the way it is and lean into it accordingly. You know, it's no longer create a piece of content for your ICP and persona, shove said piece of content down their throats until they read it or don't,
Yeah.
and recalibrate. It's evolving everybody and it's showing up in different spaces to have conversations.
100%. And you know, the way I think of it is like a bell curve, right? And you know, sometimes a tactic, and typically like it's a short-term tactic, you know, it works and it's great. And then everybody's like, oh, let me teach you, you know, how to do this or that. And then over time, it becomes spam. And so I think the cycle shortened for that. And I think community offers like a long-term strategy that keeps on giving. And I think you talked about it multiple times. So can you actually explain exactly for folks that you know have never heard the term, but like can you describe for us like what a community-led growth is, and you know even like a community-led go-to-market, you know how would you describe it?
Yeah, community-led growth is growth loops, growth motions led by community of people. Um, it's just different growth strategies in marketing. Community-led GTM, it's connecting it more to the full GTM. I think both for the acquisition and retention and monetization, all of that of clients, but also connecting it to the learning part of it for people's teams as well,
You
so that
mentioned
they could level up with it's a new way to enable and learn.
100%, and I think you mentioned one really important point, which is it's a loop, right? You keep coming back, like right with the same as with a good product. You need to have a good loop to bring people back to the product. Like same thing with a community, except that it's built naturally into a community value. It's a loop. People want to come back to where people are, and you know it's almost like a you know think of you know mid-centuries Italy marketplaces, right, where people go to hear new ideas, to share, you know, kind of learn from each other, preach, and that's what a community is, right? In a way, and
And hang out and
hang out.
unwind. um it doesn't always have to be zippered up. Like you need a place where you could go be your true authentic self and just like throw your boss under the bus behind somebody's back because you've
It's,
had a rough day. Like just literally be yourself and have a
that's
safe space. That's underrated. Like that's a really important part of community.
it is, and it's an important learning curve. Now, you know, you have a lot of experience in this, and there are so many specific questions to ask. I'll get to that, but I'd love for you to share actually some of the battle stories of building Rev Genius, and you know what would you have done differently, and what are some of the strategies that really work for you? Can you kind of reflect back on that experience, but all the way back when you guys started?
Yeah. So some of the stuff that I think we did well was we started small. I didn't think and I'm going to start talking about the idea of like a minimum viable community. It doesn't have to be on a platform, um, or even digitally, in writing. It could be, on roundtables digitally, like on Zoom or whatever. But we started with four people in a LinkedIn DM. Myself, Galen, the other co-founder, Ben Haber, Stephanie Madsen. We called ourselves the Four Musketeers. We had no idea what was going to happen, what we were doing. we just had a group of 4 people that started posting on LinkedIn. We shared that commonality. We were all in sales. We share that, or related. We shared that commonality. And Galen and myself are talking about partnering on something. We didn't know what it was. She was awesome, still is. And we really vibed with each other. And we're like, why don't we make this group bigger? Let's get more people that all care about like LinkedIn personal brand. Like we shared like a commonality. And that was a key. We all were in similar fields and we all were on LinkedIn. And the only rule was bring somebody else that's like a vibe. And we wanted people that brought good energy.
Right.
And everybody brought a couple people into this group, and soon people brought a couple more. And now we're at like a dozen or 2 dozen people. And along the way, we're like, okay, what business do we start? Like, oh, we're getting so many, like what problem does this space have? And the problem I thought, and I do think it's a problem, but I'm not convinced people care about it enough, is that there's so many events and there's no centralized place for it. There's so many events and I'm getting so many emails and there just needs to be a centralized place. So what we did was we created a Google Sheet with all the events. And this group of people, we try to circulate it with, thinking that they would go there. And we realized a couple things quickly. One, I don't think that they ever went to that sheet. And certainly they didn't care about it that much. And 2, they really liked each other so much. And they were talking so fast in this group that the LinkedIn DMs would break the app, meaning the app would shut down and you'd have to go back in it multiple times per day. And it was really annoying people. And I'm like, I think we have a community. And so what, listening and seeing that the hypotheses we had with the problem that people were having wasn't necessarily it. Like it was actually people wanted a space. And they told us to go to Slack. What platform do we go to? Do we go to Slack? Do we go wherever? In our case, it was where the people went.
Right.
And from there, just from an acquisition standpoint, did a phenomenal job. Had that out. What I would have changed, because we grew 1,000 to 3,000 members a month. And the reason why we did that was we were solving a problem. This isn't stated enough. We were solving a problem. There wasn't a space for everybody in revenue at the time that you didn't have to pay for, and you didn't have to be a senior leader. So you could be an IC or you could be a senior leader in the same space.
Right.
And that didn't exist. So we solved that problem. And then I created a really easy, low barrier to join because there was no cost. So it was just like submit an email. So I reached out to hundreds of people every day with like a 2-liner and got 10 to 20% to say yes. And that itself grew 1,000 members a month. And then we created some loops with just like ambassador programs, referral programs, stuff like that.
Right.
Going back, what I would do different, frankly, like I could say this now, but I don't know if I would, because doing it the way we did was not perfect, but it was kind of like a beautiful not perfect, if that makes sense. Like we were optimizing for vanity metrics. Like, and you could say like you should never optimize for vanity metrics. Well, here's the deal. In the beginning, it's not always a bad thing to optimize for that vanity metric because it ends up bringing other people in. And you're like, oh shit. Net new members, like maybe it needs to be engagement, or maybe it needs to be activation. So if we were doing it perfectly, we would have brought people in and focused on activating them a little better. We would have listened more to the noise complaints that they had earlier, because we were bringing on 1,000 people into a Slack group every month. People were saying it is way too noisy. And we were like, yeah, but it's awesome. That is not the right answer. That's not, it's an answer. Uh, it is not even close to the right answer.
Right.
Um,
Which honestly, that shoo me away from some of the communities, because it was like, too much noise, and I need clarity, right? Like, and so for example, I'll jump in here, real quick. I really like somebody asking the community here, which communities are your favorite? Like, well, I have a SaaS community that I joined, like, where all the SaaS founders, and it's super relevant. And any nudge email that I get from the community is something that's relevant, and it's on my mind, right? So for me, that was super relevant. But I would imagine, like, think about it, RevOps, like, what was that for, right? Like, it's almost like a new function, and there's nothing on the market for the folks to collect the knowledge and share, and just kind of chillax with the like-minded folks. And so Jared came in, they started small. They were not thinking about a platform. They broke the LinkedIn by having way too many messages, and they were onto something. And this is exactly, I think, the right way to start, right? Being scrappy, falling in love with the process, and your fellow community makers. Would you say that that's a kind of little TLDR of the beginning of the journey?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, man, awesome. Well, so what is a better answer than it just is noisy and it's cool.
The better answer is breaking down and understanding what people need. What are the handful of things that people need? You can't solve everything for everyone, but you could probably focus on like a couple or a few items and do that. And it's also figuring out what they need and figuring out how to get them to that aha moment. And frankly, this is a really, really hard challenge that we
Right.
haven't figured out now. We have better systems in place. I don't think many people have figured out that aren't building a full platform themselves, like Facebook or Instagram and stuff, or Twitter. With third-party tools and community tools, it's tougher. We've done one of the better jobs at this, activating, getting them to that aha moment. And that aha is understanding what drives supreme engagement. Is that connecting with people internally? Is that having an event that knocks their socks off within X number of days? Is that landing a new deal? Obviously, that's an aha for a lot of people. Is that feasible, landing a new deal? Like, what's a little easier thing than that? And focus on that, and focus even before that, like, heavily on onboarding. Onboarding is massive for what we do. And the takeaway there is, even if it's a SaaS company bringing people on, onboarding is massive for that too. Because, like, how you onboard folks, whether it's clients, whether it's community members under SaaS or third party, that's going to set the pace for their experience. And you don't even need technology for it. You don't even need technology to hit that aha. What I was doing a couple months ago, for anybody that watched, I was hosting like manual 30-minute onboarding 3 days a week. And I was saying, I'm going to help you do 4 things, or I need you to do 4 or 5 things. You got to introduce yourself on Slack. I'm going to introduce you to somebody else. You're going to go to an event, or sign up at least, so that you could get the on demand. You're going to join a channel, and you're going to fill out your profile, right? Because if you did these things, there's a better chance of you getting some network effect from it and leaning in and blah, blah, blah. But yeah.
Beautifully said. I'm just going to echo the fact that you're going to introduce me to somebody else in a community immediately, and that creates value in itself. Because I'm sure you have, well, now you have like almost 50,000 members, but I'm sure you have some data keywords and understanding of who's who in a community, so you can make that matching happen. Or is it still,
or you use a tool, like a donut or something like that. You get folks in a tool that they can match with somebody quickly, and let the automation or the technology do that.
Right. And I completely hear you, especially knowing you for a little while now. I understand, like, and I agree, like, tech doesn't matter, right? Like, what matters is like that human touch and creating opportunities, whatever the opportunity is for a person that's joining, right? And really uncovering that. So, but I know a lot of people have been asking me that in the past couple of days. And that's the first question I asked you is like, where do we host our community? What tech do we choose? So let's get that out of the way, so we can jump into more deep.
Tell me the use case, because here's the thing.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate to speak to some stellar community leaders that have stood up communities at multiple unicorn companies. And while and they haven't done the same playbook in either one. So I need to understand the use case to give you an answer. But I'll tell you, yeah. So tell me a use case and I'll unpack it a little bit.
Perfect. So let's talk about the process that went in my head. Now when I reflect back, the first use case you think about is how you're going to scale it. How you're gonna get more revenue from it. How you're going to grow your business from it, right? Like which is not the right way to start. Like we can conclude that immediately. But that's the first thing that comes to mind. So naturally, you think which tool to choose, so that people, your ICPs that already spend time on there, are naturally drawn into your community, right? Like that's the first thought that occurs, at least in my head. But I think the use case really is to allow my teammates to learn from our customers, to get the customers to join our product board and contribute to the roadmap more actively and more effectively. So this is the use case after talking to you, and obviously after really thinking deeply about it, like this is where I'd like to start from.
Yeah, so right off the bat, there's two major, and thinking about it like this will help you think about everything. What parts of your business objectives or revenue organization can community best impact? I look at it as two different parts. Well, three, but like two main ones. Demand gen, which is where everybody's eyes light up. Like, how could I bring in new pipeline?
It's the first thing that comes to mind. Yeah.
I'll group sales into there in the sense that like you could speed up deal velocity, although you're thinking more pipeline day one than deal velocity. That's just like a really cool thing that like later you're like, oh my God, I saw that it speeds up deals. Yeah. Let's do that more. Hey Connor, I'm looking at over here, but let's the second is customer success, right? Like how could we use community to make it easier to retain and grow existing customers? Like, so first and foremost, if you're a SaaS tool and you start with demand gen, that is gutsy of you, because you literally are starting a community to try to sell somebody something.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Good for you.
How are you going to do that and make them trust and believe you? That's tough. Okay. Yeah. So at that point, and I believe whenever you turn this on and you open up community for not customers, you need to think this, period. But what problem do they not solve? What problem do they not have solved? I get that you sell to a CFO, and I spoke to somebody last night at a CFO dinner on this. I get that you sell to a CFO and you want to have a CFO community. And I turned to somebody else at the table who is a fractional CFO. I said, are you in other communities? Yeah. What do you like and what don't you like about them? Nobody asks these questions.
Right.
They just know that I have a persona. It's the CFO. I'm going to create a community of CFOs and they're going to all come flock. And he goes, here are three things that they all have or that they're missing. And then I interjected. I said, well, I understand what the CFO space is missing as a whole, if you want to go down this route, which is kind of gutsy. But like we went through dinner, and one of the takeaways at dinner was the new CFO isn't just a finance person that does all the numbers. They take the bull by the horns and they make sure the company succeeds. And I said, that sounds like operations. And I'm like, if we're in a room with RevOps, they're saying the same fucking thing. I'm like, what if we just tell them that they should be in the room together? Because
Right.
I think your product that you sell to the CFO could also be sold to RevOps. I think that they're an influencer. Am I right? Yes, they're an
100%.
influencer. They're not there yet with
100%.
with a certain product.
Right.
And I'm like, is that interesting? Like, what if do you have a community? Like, okay, so now we have something that's forward thinking, that's not out there, that could potentially help the CFOs, could help RevOps as well, and could for the future. So thinking outside the box and giving what they actually need. Now, that makes the CFO maybe more ops minded, more all the okay. The lowest hanging fruit is to start with your own customers, though, and not pick a platform. The
Right.
platform is Zoom. Hop on Zoom with a dozen people that are buying your product and ask them what they like, what they hate, what they're seeing in the space, and let them be friends with each other.
Right. 100%. So you add additional value by bringing them
And
together.
listen to the problems that they have, and try to give them um, non-tangible or non-monetary, like all the solutions you can, like build their brands, personal brands, build their expertise, get them more speaking spots, whether it's for your company or elsewhere, and build that camaraderie, and listen to them, show them product updates before anybody else has, let them beta before anybody else has, give them an inside scoop, and and you're on your way to building evangelists. And then when you want to launch a platform, launch it for just customers and
Right.
have them be the first users, right? And have them help evangelize other customers, and listen, like, what do you want us to talk about? Or what do we need to talk about that needs to get solved for your persona, whether our product could do it or not? And and there are some products, like especially PLG, where you could talk a ton about the product. Like Webflow does this, Asana does this, Notion does this, where people help other people hack the product. Zapier, I believe, does this. Yeah.
Right. Oh, there are many great examples, and I think this is the right time to ask. Like, we have one question from Harshvardhan. So basically, he says, Rev Genius is one of a kind, and super awesome, which is excellent, and we all know it. But while building any community, as you scale, you struggle to build value for people in the community. So how do you balance out the scale versus quality of engagement? Great question.
Um, I mean, it depends on like there you could keep it small, or you could build like volunteer systems in. You're going to need to hire people as you scale.
Right.
Or what Notion did, which was really cool, they created an ambassador program, and they just had some gung-ho people helping out. Like you need people as you scale. Automations will only get you so far. Otherwise, the quality does go down. If you could build affinity ambassadors and volunteers and all of that, that's the way to scale with less employees. But you need people
Right.
to keep the quality. Otherwise, you either keep it small, or you're okay giving up certain things and you focus on what's more important.
Now, the one other thing, Jared, you don't want to impose rules, but you also want to have a little box as wide as possible. But nonetheless, you want to have a little bit of a box where people can navigate through, so you don't get a lot of self promotions and you don't get a lot of unwanted behavior. So can you tell us more about the best case practices here?
Yeah, you need governing rules. A handful of things that are like non-starters. Make it clear what gets you kicked out of the community, and moderate, like moderation. And this is something we were speaking about last night as well. Moderation is important. It's one of the most important things.
Yeah, you can't just let it be, right? Is a bottom line, right? Like you have to.
Otherwise, yeah, it's if you're starting a revenue related community, everyone will sell. Even if you're not doing a revenue related community, everyone will sell. And when I say sell, promote.
Promote, yeah.
Everyone will promote if there's no rules putting that away.
Right.
Sometimes that's a good thing in small areas, but if your whole community becomes a promotion, a self-promotion area, that's going to eventually turn people away.
Right. You kind of have to earn it in a way to like, be able to pitch your product. And there are different ways to do that.
Well, you don't even want to pitch. And I think this is the big thing. Like the principles behind community are giving. You just want to give. And if you give, you're going to get leads if that's what you're looking for. You're going to get friends if that's what you're looking for. You're going to get a job if that's what you're looking for. You're going to get what you're looking for.
100%. I think that's one of the principles of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People from Stephen Covey. Basically, first give, then ask, right? And so that's really cool.
And give and ask the universe, right? Because it'll come back from a different person.
Pay it forward, 100%. All right. So is there all right, so there's so many questions I want to ask, and so folks, do help me out. Like if you want to get deeper on a topic, or you just want me to go broad and kind of the more high level strategies and tactics, there's so much we can ask.
Who here's built a community, or who here is planning on building a community? You could put a 1 in the comments if you've built it or are building it. 2 if you'd love to, or 3 like I'm just here for the party.
Awesome. So we have Jason Libera. We have a whole bunch of like to build. Perfect. So we have actually 2 people that have it. And you guys can write any questions.
Jason and Chazen, yeah.
That's and we have a whole bunch of people that would like to build it. So nobody's here just to hang out with you and me, Jared. Like I guess we're not that cool, man. We should just build the knowledge. So it's all either 1 or 2.
I mean, if people are coming to a webinar, it's because they want to get some knowledge now,
100%.
Because God knows there's enough. There isn't webinar fatigue. There's bad webinar fatigue. So I want to create as much value for you all because you gave us your time.
100%, my man, 100%. Well, that was a bonus. Yeah, hello. That's perfect. So okay, let me ask you one thing. Can you actually, let's talk about a movement. Let's talk about a big idea, right? So we know a lot of B2B SaaS companies are trying to, create a category. There are great benefits of doing that. It's very costly and expensive, but, great benefits at the end. And we also have a lot of companies that actually go with that product motion, but also like they embed community since the early days. So can you talk a bit more about the examples of where a community and the product together created a movement within an industry? It can be a tiny or it can be big. Like
can you create an example? Can you give me an example of a time a movement was created without a community? How about I ask that question?
Good one. That's a good one. No, I cannot. No.
Okay. Yeah. So
it's a good one.
Let's look at movements that have been created. Like,
yeah.
So what was the question that you had, and then I'll give a few examples.
Walk me through some of the examples of where you see the product and the community being a natural fit and creating a kind of a movement, a kind of a movement in.
Yeah. So how many people in here use CRMs? Type in 1 if you use a type of CRM, 2 if you don't know what a CRM is or you don't use it. Got it. There's a CRM called Salesforce, right?
What's that?
How does Salesforce build community? Well, yeah, we have Trailhead. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a helpful thing that the sales reps tell you to go to if you don't know anything, which is great. Right. But how'd they build a movement? Do you all remember like that no more software? There's a movement. Software's clunky as fuck.
Right.
Old school, right?
Right.
And all they did, simply put, was have a cloud with software, or maybe it was a circle with software crossed out.
Right. They had a
The
statement.
movement was created around the product, which was web-based. It was SaaS, as you all know it today. Maybe a lot of you are in it. LeadDelta is built with it, right?
Yep.
And this whole no software, and then this
Trailblazer.
laser community
Yeah.
to support this. And like, were CRMs around before? Yeah, but they weren't web-based. They were clunky. They were spreadsheets. It was awful. So it helps when you're solving a problem, right? Like a big problem like that. So
Right.
so Salesforce created a movement. They actually created a category too. With that, a massive one. And then like, yeah, so that's like the biggest one in the space, probably, or one of the biggest ones.
Probably. Just lately, I would give an example, and this, by the way, this is so spot on. And then you can see a whole bunch of other companies like HubSpot tried to do that by bringing sales and marketing together. And everybody's almost like following that same script.
HubSpot created inbound marketing and a whole movement there, right?
Right,
Marketers had a place, and marketers are like, damn, like, yes. And they
100%.
felt connected. And HubSpot did a really good job building community as well. And a category came out of that as well.
And I think that's what OpenAI is might be missing currently, because I don't see any community evolving around it. There's a whole bunch of people trying different things.
Oh, there's a community.
Really,
OpenAI has a developer community that's really big. I was in the OpenAI Slack group before it even was live. That was the hottest ticket in town.
yeah.
The hottest ticket in town. And a lot of communities come out of that for sure. Starting a movement. There was a gap in the revenue space, and there were these people that were kind of like account managers, but they weren't. And Gainsight comes around and says, "You're customer success people. Like, let's create it." And sure enough, it's grown. More people want to go into that space. They held that flag, and now the movement continues because they're showing it's the most cost-effective way to build your revenue. Right? Like, it's cheaper to maintain a customer than to get a new one, and to grow a customer, and built a whole movement around that, which is really cool. And Gainsight has acquired community platform inside it, and it's big on community to get there. You can't create a movement without community.
Basically, I totally agree, and that's a great question. And it only has one answer. All right, perfect. Quick question there. So we have a lot of folks that want to build a community, and I definitely see we can do a second show and just go deeper on all these topics. But as a first one, I actually wanted to keep it like high level, but also
Yeah.
play to an extent. So we have a lot of founders that want to start their own communities. Like, what key takeaways or piece of advice you'd give them, to just start, right? Like, not go too deep, but like how to start, like after this webinar, to be pumped up and not to overthink it.
MVC, baby, minimum viable community.
You guys have
Like,
told to start tweeting that. That's Jared's thing. He just
minimum viable community. I mean, like the biggest gap, starting a community that's going to be successful, is like finding product market fit. Like, find community market fit, or problem community fit. I don't know the right words there, but like you're solving a problem for somebody. You just happen to have a product, right? So it's kind of the messaging, right? Like, LeadDelta solves a handful of problems, but like positioning it with like the main problem is big. But that's already too complicated. Let's throw 4 people in a LinkedIn DM that all have some similarities, and just start talking to them, asking them questions, figuring out if they're the right people for your product. And by the way, they are the right people. Throw 4 customers that like you have. And if you don't have customers, and you're pre-product market fit, and you're pre-revenue and pre-customers, throw your idea around with 4 people that will return your calls that you like, right? And like talk to them. And by 4, 3 outside of you could be the 4th. That's totally cool. And just have the conversations. And then and listen. And if you don't know the questions to ask them the questions that you should be asking, right? Like, and then that's the starting point. And then you
Right.
determine if you want to bring other people in, other customers, if you want to try to do this with potential customers as well, which tread carefully in the beginning, or segment different users in different groups, right? Like LeadDelta has a SaaS micro community or advisory board, customer advisory board. Maybe there's an agricultural one. Maybe you want to keep them separate and you want to figure out which one the product has a better fit with to double down on and create
100%.
more with.
So basically, guys, start small, start now. Don't overthink it. What's the worst thing that can happen? Nobody's nobody's active in a group anymore. So be it, start something new. So it's similar with the product, same with the community. Start small. It's always the best answer. Now we have one question, and then, as I said, stay until the end. We have some really exciting announcements to make. There's one specific question here for you, Jared. Like, actually,
I'm building somebody's community at no cost.
at no
Just
cost.
kidding.
There you go. There you go. It's true.
I'll give you 40 hours a week.
For free, included with this one.
All I need is a couch to sleep on.
There you go, guys. Now you know. So what to do? So Elena has a question here, and she's like, this has been excellent. But she's asking, when you're building something very specific, and I'll quote it here, a product for rapid diagnostic of resistant germs. This is very specific. How do you build a community around that? Give us your 2 cents. And you got a couch.
Who are the people that want that community? Doctors or scientists? So like, and who uses the product right now?
All right. So
can we get her on? Can we get her on the screen?
You and your pet, says Elena.
What's that?
It's you and your pet is like the answer.
You and your pet. So pet owners.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Now we're getting somewhere.
No, it's easy.
Yeah, now it's easy. So why do pet owners care about this? Because it's not the pets that are buying vegan food for themselves. It's the owners that are buying the crazy vegan food or $20 a pound amazingness.
Yeah.
First and foremost is for the pet owner, not the pets.
Yeah.
The community in this case.
100%. Yeah, 100%. So I think
so yeah, just going in. So I guess the takeaway is like, understand why this problem or why they need your product or why they're using your product. Like germs. Like, is it because I'll give a little feedback on the little bit I know about, because there's no diagnostics. So pet owners that are probably real conscious of their pets getting sick.
Right.
And the plan is they typically, I need to dive in. Like this is a very solvable thing. I don't want to take the rest of the time asking questions, because the quick answer is talk to the people that use the product, understand why they use the product, what high level challenges they have. These are people that are super conscious of pets, of their pets, and are like overly involved. Do you create a community or test, with these people, like some like really overly thoughtful like stuff, like what do pet owners like this do? They want dog walkers of a certain ilk. They want different resources there. Figure out what the ecosystem looks like for them.
100%.
And start building it.
100%, Jared. Like, I appreciate the answer and the live Q&A, guys. So we're slowly running out of time, but this has been super helpful. One thing that I'd add here, is, I think to me, it sounds counterintuitive. Like the tinier the community is, the better it gets, right? Like, because there's probably not a lot of competition in the space. So you're not going to have them running into other communities, but they're going to actually join yours. So the more specific it gets, the better it is, the more opportunities you can generate and create. That's at least what I got from Jared's presentation. But guys, do reach out to Jared on LinkedIn, Twitter. You can find him all over the place. He's famous. All right. So we said, stay until the end. There's something we want to show you.
I'm connecting with Jelena on LinkedIn now. It's a very interesting
there you go. You got him thinking, Jelena. You got him thinking.
Challenge. Like asking that, I can't come up with an answer in 5 minutes. It'd be full of shit. Anybody that could.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. So here we are at the very end. A couple of things we want to share with you. Well, first and foremost, for LeadDelta users that we have here on a call, we're preparing a crazy announcement, and a new product release that's coming out likely tomorrow. So over the weekend, those of you that want to play with the product can see the new feature. This is the highest, the most votes that we've ever received for a feature, and it's going to get released finally. So stay tuned. Maybe you can figure out from this what it means, but I'll leave you hanging until tomorrow. And there's a little bit of a pressure for my development to actually get it done. so
they have until midnight.
Exactly. All right, Roberto, feel free to ask a question. We'll probably answer it if we have time. But another thing I want you to guys really go ahead and do, because you don't get this opportunity that often. We have jaredrobin.com as one of the
don't judge my my creative skills. I'm focusing more on the content here.
Jared, this supports, like, this whole page and the process behind supports what we just talked about. You have the opportunity to watch Jared live, building and shipping this product. So you're going to learn a lot. Like, I already read the first 2 issues of a newsletter and what's coming out. So it's just going to be excellent. He's going to be sharing a lot of good stuff, and I'm just trying to close my mouth so I don't share anything that you want me to share. But it's going to be super exciting, guys, and you should definitely go in and join. It's super simple to subscribe. Go ahead, do that now.
Yeah, we're going to talk. I'm going to talk about one big idea every week, make it like very relevant, very executable, very thoughtful, getting you thinking. Throw a couple resources in there that I think like help illuminate it from other folks doing it, and then show you some 3 tech tools to empower. Very simple. I'm keeping it under 5 minutes every week. It's an email, but I'm going to probably change the name to the community. Like, this is very, very on the nose. I found a gap. There's very few people helping founders and early stage marketers build community with the GTM mind. So that's what this newsletter is going to be for. It's free.
So as a marketeer and founder myself, I'm extremely excited about this. Obviously, I can't hide it. So go to jaredrobin.com and just subscribe. It's super simple and easy.
The Beehive logo is still on. I've actually created a plan for Beehive to build.
Come on, man. Nobody would know if you didn't say.
There's somebody here that has a Beehive newsletter. I promise. I hope.
It's almost like noon here in the Eastern time zone. And I really thought that we could go on and on about this, and I think we could, and we should organize a second follow-up webinar. I think Milana will definitely comment on this, but I think this has been the most active webinar we've ever had, combined with other businesses. So do subscribe to jaredrobin.com. Make sure to follow his wisdom around communities and how to build movements. And we're all going to benefit a ton from Jared. So do subscribe, and thank you guys so much for sticking.
Yep. And one quick benefit of subscribing so early: if you respond to any of my emails with a question that you're going through or something that's going through your head, there's a damn good chance I'm going to respond to that. I'm a community person. I'm not like I want to be involved and help. And there'll probably be a business model down the road. Don't get me wrong, but like, my time is our time. Like, I love this.
This is the best time to join the newsletter. So go ahead and do it. Jared, man, this has been a pleasure. Much greater than I expected. So appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
Damn. Take care, everybody. This is awesome.
It's been great. Thank you so much. See you around.